I'm super excited. It's Kathleen Byars here, and I am with Laisha, who is one of our fantastic clients who has agreed to come share her story in hopes that we can inspire, motivate, and really educate another woman out there who may be struggling with some of the things Laisha was struggling with in her career, and now she is living a beautifully balanced life, and she has come into our program and just with a roar. So I'm super excited. Laisha, thanks so much for being here and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I know it's been remarkable, the stage that I'm at now, coming through the program.
Yes. Oh my gosh, your life is transformed. Okay, so I'm excited to share that. So why don't you just start us really quickly with what's the transformation that's taken place? What is different today? Because you have always had a great life. And I always want to say that to women, like everyone who comes into our program has a great life. Like you have a great life, but what's different? What's better? What has changed?
Yeah, I think overarching themes around my relationship with my husband, with our family, just being able to be present in the moment. Compared to what things were like before, my husband's saying, he's like, when people ask him, "Oh, how are you doing?" He's like, "Family is awesome," and that wasn't necessarily the case always coming in. So for him to say, "Yeah, family life is great," like that, he feels that it's a byproduct of the hard work in. And then for me, it's the being present in the moment, being able to really enjoy my little kiddos. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. A 5-year-old she turns 5 on Friday, and just feeling like truly connected, like speaking life into them. Any behavioral issues that we had before kind of dissipating. A lot of things just kind of in a very young, intense household. So
Yeah.
just feeling balance there, and knowing that my husband feels that too. That's the outward indicator that things have been phenomenal.
Yeah, you've gotten some amazing messages from your husband and your kids that they like this Laisha a lot better, right?
Yeah, my little ones were like, "Mommy, I like this mommy," and it's like, I like this mommy too. I like a lot. This version of me so much better.
I love it. Okay, so what is it that your children are seeing when they say I like this mommy better? What is it that's different about you?
If I kind of take the from to like where I was before and coming in from a certain place, I would say there were a couple things in play. One, being digitally distracted, right? Like being around this lovely thing, tying myself to checking emails or just being digitally distracted on other things. And my children going, "Mommy, mommy, look at me." That would be the front, one of the scenarios. Or even without said phone, that you could tell the hamster wheel was moving. Like you could just tell I was physically here, but my husband would say, "You're here, but you're not here."
Yeah.
Right. And so just having that place of like knowing like they don't feel that connection. They see me either physically or just mentally distracted, and them saying, "Mommy, pay attention." Or my husband saying, "Hey, I just want you to be here."
Yeah.
Those were the types of things that I heard. And now, like coming through the program, I would do periodic check-ins. Like I just kind of ask a question to my child or to my husband and say, "Hey, how do you think, what's different? Like, are you sensing a difference?" They go, "Yeah, like you're here. We're able to just enjoy a glass of wine on the patio, and you put your phone away, or you're here. We're enjoying a pool party." I took 3 weeks of vacation off in the course of this whole the last couple of months, and was totally disconnected. Like the old me would have been checking emails, taking phone calls on this 8-hour drive to our family's lake house. Instead, it was swipe left, airplane mode, not answering, warning people, telling folks, "Hey, I'm out and I'm out for this time. Here are your alternate points of contact. I will see you on this date." And the people who have access to me, who have my cell phone number or, things, that they could have picked up the phone, they could have called, they could have sent me a text message, and none of that happened. And it was like, and it didn't make me any more or any less valuable to my company.
Yes. I love that. That is the outcome right there. That is what every woman should be living. And I want to give some context to that because Laisha, you received a promotion, a long awaited promotion. I mean, you have been working towards this promotion for a long time, the day before you left on vacation. And how many of us women go, oh, I've been given more responsibility. Let me cancel the vacation. Let me cut it short. Let me just be available. Because now we feel like we have to prove ourselves at this new level. And you didn't do that at all, right?
No, it was, hey, I have this last minute meeting. I'd like to check in. I got my promotion letter and I said, I'll see you in 3 weeks. It was like, and it was just great. And, I mean, again, like part of it is the prep. I think, there were certain activities to make sure that time away, that ability to connect with my family, that was sacred and that would be honored. So it wasn't like I just totally dropped, but yeah, I also made sure to say, or I had capable people that I trusted, that I knew that it wouldn't, like the success or failure of a company isn't resting on Laisha's shoulders, right? But that I could truly say I have trusted people, they're fully capable, I can go and disconnect, and I'm doing it with a nice little boost, with a promotion and all of the things that come with that. So yeah, it didn't change my sense of, I have to now prove myself and, I didn't have that mindset at all.
Okay, so with that in mind, talk to us, because what you're really talking about is your psychology is different, right? So yes, you put in strategies in place. You covered your assignments off, your projects and contacts, but talk about when you returned then, because I can't remember how many emails did you have when you got back and how you handled that differently than you would have in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when I returned, again, being away 3 weeks, I had an inbox. This is not total inbox. This is just unread emails of 1,800. Now the old 1,800, I would have then had to have spent the next, 3 months checking up on 1,800 emails. And instead I said, you know what, that's not an effective way of me showing up. I knew that when I came back in this promoted position that I wanted to show up differently, and my mindset would be in a very it would be operating at a much higher level. But the doer was kind of put to the side. And I said, in order for me to show up in a new way, there are things like what characteristics or what traits I want to carry, but I wasn't going to go back to the 1,800 emails. For me, it was, I can catch up with a few partners and stakeholders around the company and know pretty much in a day or two what had happened over the last 3 weeks, right? And really, honestly, nothing had significantly changed in 3 weeks. But I think we feel that like, we have to catch up, we have to respond. And I pretty much said, I'm going to put all 1,800 in some container somewhere and just operate as if it was a fresh start. All right.
I love it.
What I did?
I love it. And that you showing up differently, because Laisha, what I have seen in your transformation, and this is what's so amazing about what we do, is that you're no longer clinging to this place at the table. Like, I have to cling to this success, because when we cling to success, it doesn't feel good. It's like, no wonder success, doesn't give us the joy we're looking for. Now you're walking through success and you're walking into your role with this new identity, with this new mental game. And you're really starting to even, shift how you speak and the way you're interacting with your team. Because I think, you had a team member who was like, hey, I'll get that to you tonight by 9 o'clock. And you're like, well, I'm not going to look at it at 9 o'clock. Why don't you just get it to me tomorrow? And it's like, this is the new Laisha, like feeling in control and effective without having to prove that I'm so loyal, I'll be there at 9 o'clock at night, right?
Right. And that was, it was another byproduct of being able to gift that to someone else, to somebody on my team or somebody in our organization, where she said, I'll work on that tonight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not looking at it, so don't even worry about it. I'll talk to you tomorrow. It's just, and then it's like, I didn't even think that was an option. And it's like, no, this is how I'm showing up now. I feel the old me would have been very anxious, just again the hamster, running round and round in the hamster wheel. But now being more relaxed, more confident, knowing that what are my unique strengths, and that I'm valuable, and it doesn't have to be in all of the doing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this. So one of the big things we do in the program is we help women understand their psychology, because what does keep women trapped is those fears. What are people going to think of me? What if I drop the ball? What if I don't show up for the 9 p.m. meeting? What if the email box doesn't get the what ifs? I mean, we're just in this need to constantly prove, or in this fear-based mindset. So how has your mindset shifted, or what did you learn? Because, you know, I always say it's sort of like a diet, right? Like it's 90% what you put in your body and 10% the actual strategy, the exercise. And that's what we teach as well. So maybe if you're willing, share a little bit of that journey internally.
Sure. So when I really kind of looked at all the strategies of what I was doing and looking at my needs, I realized I was really focusing on security, and I was having some ineffective strategies around esteem. So the doing to show that I was valuable, to show that, okay, I'm a person of trust, that's because I did something, that I built my credibility. And I thought that, you know, I'm now 17, almost 18 years into my professional life, that, you know, it's always been, okay, I was the girl that anybody who gave me something, they knew that I would deliver. I was the girl who landed planes, like all of that, like that was, and I knew, like, if they gave it to me, they know it would be done, it would be successful. And so that was kind of how my professional reputation, right? And so thinking about that from, okay, well, now I have to keep going and keep doing that to prove that I still have my credibility, that I'm still reliable, that, you know, I got tied up in all of those things, and that was building up my self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Instead of like, no, what makes me me? Like, what's my makeup, my character traits, and reflecting on how I leverage that in my daily life, whether that was professionally or personally, and reflecting on that as a way of, you know, building my esteem and my security, so that I sacrificed, you know, in all the doing, I sacrificed my family, I sacrificed my health, I sacrificed just downtime, like me time.
Yeah.
So that's where I was at previously.
Yeah. And I want to say, you know, Laisha, you're not someone who was working. I mean, you because of your husband's job, there's days that you come home at 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. I mean, you're not someone who's just up until midnight every night, but it was the going back to work, you know, after the kids get in bed, or just being distant and distracted when you were with your family, or putting in those weekend hours. That's really what shifted for you. Not that you'll never do that again. There's times we all have to work late or pull in a weekend or whatever, but that's the exception now than the rule, right?
Yeah, it's more the exception. It's the either, because I realized, you know, instead of creating this master list of, okay, here's like the 20 million things that I have to do that I never actually get done. One of the conversations we had was like, what are the 3 things that propel your career? Yep. And focusing on that, and that's kind of the 80-20 rule. Like, what are those things that will propel my career? And is that really because I did something like a physical deliverable, or was it because I showed up as a leader and leveraged strengths? That was like the you know, the key to unlocking.
Oh yeah. And I mean, Laisha, you're showing up in your career now as an influencer, right? Not as a doer. Hey, look at Laisha, she'll get it done. Good old reliable Laisha. I mean, because you're an executive director. Like, this isn't like your first rodeo. You know what you're doing. So now you're showing up as the influencer, the connector, the person who's bringing people together. So things are getting done, but not because you're doing it. It's because you're influencing the environment and influencing people and helping them drive to those 1, 2, or 3 solutions. That's all it takes. Like, our program, for anyone out there who has a list, we will kill your list. I promise. There's no more to-do list. Like, we kill the list. You don't need to live on list. Yeah. So let me ask you this. So that's just such an awesome share. Thank you. When you and I first talked was back in January, right? Yeah. We had a great conversation. I think we got caught off guard. Like, it was going on too long. We had to jump off, and I invited you back on the call, and you didn't, right? And that's cool. So you didn't enroll with us until months later. Tell me about that. What was going on in January that made you go, I want to get on the call, and then said, no, I think I got this because this is really common. And I think what was going on in your psychology and the strategies you wanted to put into place, this is pretty common. So do you mind sharing them?
Yeah, sure. So at the time, so it was back in December when I had been presented this opportunity. It was basically an interim leadership position, and that it was supposed to be about a 2 to 3 month kind of a test run. And then we had connected in January. I said, hey, like, I have this opportunity, but I'm really fearful that I'm going to make some mistakes of repeat history from my past. So what I had shared with you was, you know, I had been previously married, that I was, you know, I didn't have effective strategies in certain areas of my life. And I ended up, you know, a contributing factor was the fact that I overworked myself, and I didn't grow with my former spouse. And so knowing that and saying, hey, I have this opportunity, but I have this awesome husband and amazing, you know, he's an amazing husband, amazing father. He's like he's God's best for me. I don't want to repeat history because I'm taking this position that now provides me this leadership opportunity, but it's work. And I kind of paused on it and said, hey, well, let me just kind of figure out my own way. And by April, May, I had literally put myself back into the place I didn't want to be. I remember having conversations with my husband saying, he said, something's got to change because I want my wife home. I want you home. And he was like, I'm willing to go to counseling. And I'm like, listen, like, I've been to counseling. There's a beautiful story about how Josh and I even met around counseling. But anyway, I put myself in the position that I didn't want to put myself in to begin with. And that was and then coming back and having a conversation with you in May, it was, look, I didn't figure it out on my own. I repeated history. Like I've done the thing that I told myself I would not do when I, you know, coming out of divorce. I said, I'm not going to do that again. And here I was my trajectory was crash and burn because I was investing all this time in work as a way to build my self-esteem and a lot of transformation going on in our company. And so the swirl of, okay, do I have a job? Do I not have a job? Oh, I have this opportunity. Oh, that's great. Pump up your ego, but then you're going to work yourself to death. And then and then the why you were working yourself, you're losing because you were doing it for your family, but your family feels like you're not here. Yeah. So that was the place that I was in and saying, okay, I didn't do it right. Obviously, I need to figure out different ways of how I do this and be more effective and keep my relationship intact because otherwise I feel a crash and burn.
I love that. It's so beautiful because here's the thing, Laisha, you do have a beautiful marriage, right? And I think you did this for the pressure, and you hold it in such esteem, right? You hold your marriage and your family life as so precious. You did it for that, right? Because you were convinced, you're like, Kate, I remember you on the call because you were like, Kate, how do I have both? You know, I want this promotion. I want this job. I want this. But there's a lot of fear around the fact that your company was going through transition. People were being laid off. It's scary. How do I not just sit here and set myself up for like, I'll do whatever it takes to keep my job, while my husband in his sweet, loving, and most gentlest way is saying, this isn't working for us. Our family, you know, our family needs something different. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of women do that. We take our relationships for granted because we just feel like after the next promotion, after the next project, you know, and meanwhile, our husband's like, it's been years. You've been telling me that for years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the other thing I remember about our call, and this is like really fun, because you and Josh were originally on the phone together. You guys were coming home from meeting with your financial advisor, and you just pretty much said, we are putting all of our money into this investment over here. And then you turn around and invest with us like 5 minutes later, right? Well, not 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. And, you know, there was that, you know, that moment where you're like, okay, okay, should I do this? Should I not? And there's this fear of like, oh my gosh, but I just said I was going to do this. And I said, but you know what, like the alternative, right? Like, not to say that it could have gone there, but it isn't going there, because I've made changes in my behavior, like my mindset and everything. And it's just overflowing like in a very positive way. But I think of like, okay, the alternative could be thousands and thousands of dollars in counseling, a dissolution of a marriage, like all of that. I mean, that is like the worst possible scenario, but you can say, okay, do I make this investment in myself and get myself to a very healthy, strong place? Or do I sit in what's comfortable and don't make the change, right? So it's you can make this investment and get out of your comfort zone and totally change in a healthy way. Or you can live in that comfortable spot because it's comfortable to you, but it's almost like, you know, it's, you know, from like scriptural perspective is like, okay, well, you adjust to the darkness, right? Like if you're living in darkness, you just adjust your sight to the dark, versus like what could be possible if you come out in the light. So that's kind of how I really processed it as I was making that decision. It was, okay, I could stay in the comfort zone and let the trajectory of crash and burn take place, or I could see what's possible.
Right. That's so amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Every woman needs to let those words sink in, because literally, you and Josh were in the car, you just come back from your financial advisor. He left to go pick up the kids at school. You and I had a call, and then he gets back and you're like, oh, that whole thing we just, it's like, the whole thing we just agreed to. Wow. But you invested in you first. And I always tell women that, like, we have to put our oxygen mask on first. We have to put ourselves first, because now it's like a drop of water, and look at what's going on in your marriage and in motherhood and in your career and in the people that you serve around you in your community, right? They're getting the next best you, and they're really getting the authentic you that just needed a way to come out, right? That's awesome. So it serves everyone. It's not just for you, but you have to make that decision for yourself first. So cool. So last question. So you talked about, I can make this investment myself, or I can kind of stay in the dark. I think that's such an incredible or very perfect scenario that you described. What was the hardest part for you? Because the program's not easy, right? Like it's simple, and we give you a framework that you can always use now and forever, but it's not easy. You got to walk through some stuff that's really uncomfortable. Was there anything in particular that you were like, ugh, or anything that, you'd love to share there?
Yeah, I think totally the thing about scripts and dialing scripts back and rolling those back and understanding like the genesis of, there's beautiful qualities of being like the achiever or being an achiever, but there's also a lot of that mindset is wrapped up in something that happened early on in life, and being able to kind of peel that back and say, okay, well, where did that come from? Okay, well, that was the triggering moment. And it's like, it's nothing of like what happened last week. It wasn't because you got into an argument with your husband like 2 weeks. It wasn't even that. It's like things that happened from your childhood, and going back to that place and saying, okay, that was the genesis of how Laisha's track went one way when it could have gone another way, right? And just not having that environment to thrive. And being able to really dig into that and connect with the emotion of that, and put yourself mentally back in the place of who you were as a little girl. And then to connect that and say, okay, so flip the script, right? Like just because that happened to you doesn't mean that defines you.
Yes.
Yeah, that was love that. The script. Yeah. What got us here doesn't get you there. So
exactly. That's it. What got us here as high achievers was typically some trigger in our past, and that's why we're achieving, because we're putting so much value in our actions. That gets us to a certain point, but now we're doing this because life has expanded. We have husbands and children and hobbies that we've been putting on hold, and things we want to do with our life that now we're like, when do I get to do all that stuff? And we have to let go of that need to achieve. And so I think that was your other aha moment. We'll wrap with this because it's so perfect. How are you achieving now? Remember we talked about that, like achieving from this place or achieving from this place, and maybe that's a great place to end up.
Yeah, so I think now it's focusing on, okay, those truly critical things that, like the strategies that are most effective, the things that, the few things, not the many things, but the few things that do propel my career, but how I show up, it's really about my character strength, like my own unique strengths, like providing perspective. So instead of me developing a proposal, I can advise and consult our selling team on, hey, like I was on the call with that agency and this is what I heard. What did you hear? And be able to share ideas. Okay, well, this is what I heard. Is this the same thing? All right, here's how I think we address this. And it has, for example, it totally transformed the way a proposal just went out like 2 hours ago. By having those few calls and saying, okay, but I wasn't the one writing the proposal, rewriting, updating it. It was, hey, this is what I heard. So it's more about my perspective and my judgment and empathy, like what I understand the customers need to be. And then how does that reflect in something that we as a team are proud of? And so just or just showing up in other meetings like, hey, we have something for discussion and decision. I'd love your take. I have a hypothesis, but I'd love your take. And then let the conversation flow and say, okay, well, this is how I think about it. So it sounds like my hypothesis or our hypothesis isn't off, or now I know what to do. I'll take the next step, and you become priceless, or, you know, just all of. So I just feel like it is more in the how I engage across the organization and out in our market. That looks very different than how I would have done before.
I love it. Oh, I love it, Laisha. Yeah. And I think like what we always say is that, you know, now achievement comes not from a place of fear, you know, not playing. It's about playing to win instead of playing not to fail, you know, or playing out of fear, which is like, what if I lose my place at the table? What if I don't show up? What if? It's like, what are the possibilities now? And, you know, and I see that, and you're walking through your life now and your career going, what's possible here, right? I don't need to write this report, or what's next for me in my career? How do I want to show up now differently? Or what else is going on in our life for me and Josh? How can we build that next level for us? And you're no longer having to cling to stuff. It's like, let's go try this. It's fearless.
Yeah, I even have started to use those kinds of words even in our meetings, like, hey, I want to push on this because I see what's possible, but but let's get there together. So
yeah. And everyone's like, hey, we like this, Laisha. That's awesome. Oh my God. So happy for you. I'm so happy for your family. I'm so happy for your marriage and your husband. And I thank you for coming into this program and joining us, taking that step, that leap of faith in yourself, and getting what you needed to create your best life and the life that you really want. And now you're just going to keep creating and just doing, just trucking, right? Your big, impressive career and your beautiful, closely connected family. That's it. Simple, right?
Yes. So women of badassery unite.
Yes. Women of badassery. I love your hashtag. Yeah.
I think I'm claiming that one. I'll trademark that. Hashtag women of badassery.
Awesome. Yes. Cool. Well, thanks again for sharing your story. I think so many women are really going to truly relate to what you're talking about here. And it's kind of you to come on and do that. But mostly thanks for joining our program and being an outstanding client and kicking ass. So, Laisha, appreciate you. Thanks again.